All right, welcome back to Fluid Motor Union's YouTube channel, where we usually diagnose cars and not existential crises. But today, we're trying something new, a product review. Before you ask, no, this isn't a paid gig. They didn't send us a check, just a free gadget to try. And honestly, it's pretty surprising. Here's the thing, the tool's affordable, like really affordable. But what caught us off guard is just how well it stacks up against some of the big ticket stuff we use in the shop on a daily basis, like potentially industry disruptive. Yeah, I'm still processing that one too. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. Nothing is, except maybe an exhaust note on a crisp fall morning that makes you reconsider your choices. But this thing, it's got potential, and enough to make you question if you've been conned by all the big fancy branding for all these years. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a DIY enthusiast, or someone who just likes collecting tools they'll never use, stick around, because there's a twist in this one. Oh, and smash that like button and subscribe. Or don't, just know you'll be missing out on watching us poke fun at overpriced junk in future videos. All right, let's see if the OTOFIX Lite is the underdog hero your toolbox didn't know you needed, or just another gadget that'll make a great paperweight. So as an automotive shop that works on a wide range of vehicles, we have to invest a lot into diagnostic tools. Now, for years we had been using manufacturer-specific tools, especially when we first got started. ISTA with BMW, Star with Mercedes, Laris with Lamborghini. While those tools still definitely have a place in our diagnostic repertoire, we find ourselves going more to the general tools, especially after we first got our Autel system. Now, when Autel came out, they did have a very wide range and high capacity for working on a very broad range of vehicles. We could not believe the access and what you could do with one of these, especially for the price point. I mean, some of our units were $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. We were pretty surprised by how much you got for that price. Now, it seems like Autel, they kind of got the industry disruption reputation when they came out, and a lot of people have been keeping pace. We've got the launch tool, which up until recently was my go-to for a cheap scan tool. This thing's under $1,000 and it works pretty good for doing, again, a wide range of vehicles. Some functions that the Autel couldn't do, for instance, resetting, recalibrating certain modules on Ferraris, believe it or not. More recently, this top-down unit, a little bit more on the expensive side. Very impressed with its speed and its capabilities, and just some of the way it lays out diagnostically. But I will tell you, now that we've gotten the channel going, we've had more than a few people reach out to us about sponsorship opportunities. And when you're doing YouTube, you kind of got to start thinking about taking advantage of those if you're going to be at this a long time and you're seeking resources into it. At some point, you got to make it pay and have it be worth it. However, of all the opportunities that have come up so far, and there's been quite a few, I haven't really been impressed with very many products or stuff that we've been using that I'd feel good about giving a review on that would end up positive or not have us feeling like we'd owed them something. But there's been something that I just got recently, the OTOFIX. It's a tablet-based scan tool here. Now, what I'm told, and I don't know if this rumor is true or not, but it's the same people that are behind the Autel trying to make their systems more affordable. When I opened it up at first and plugged it into a car, I was very shocked by how similar it was to how the Autel communicates with vehicles, brings up the information, and works. And in fact, in my little bit of playing around with it, I really wasn't finding anything it couldn't do that my older Autel system would. Now, we thought about upgrading our Autel, but from as far as I could tell, a lot of the information, some of it was going backwards. They were taking away things, some immobilizer stuff, some things with more current updates. And I was afraid that if I was buying a newer, faster unit, that I'd be buying something that was just a newer, faster on our upgrade for a system that basically is already working out still pretty well for us. So that's why I went with the top-down. But again, we're still talking about scan tools that cost a few $1,000s. This thing, I'm pretty sure, is right around $400. And again, so far I haven't seen anything that the Autel Maxis can't do. But the other day, I found something that this can do that the Autel Maxis couldn't. And I'll show you what that is. All right, so opening the case up, you got a little tablet. It's Android based, diagnostic port, a USB splitter, probably allows you to hook up to LAN, maybe programming capacity. I haven't really pushed this thing out and tried to see what it could do yet. All the bells and whistles, just because in my head, something this small and for this price point shouldn't be able to do too much. Now, typically when we do our diagnostic work, there's a lot of different tools we go to for Ferrari that I have here. Texa, CarSoft, the Autel, even the top-down will pull it up. But the problem with those, they're all kind of clunky. They're a little bit bigger. I got to carry them over. They require external power sources to charge up. This kind of does too, but when we reset lights, it didn't include the very newest models. I'm talking like 2018 and above. So I just plugged this thing in. I haven't hit any buttons yet, and already it's bringing up the VIN number and bringing up the brand. Where this ended up being very beneficial to us, we were doing our oil changes and services, and we went in and there was the definition for many new cars, and those of you guys are familiar with this, looks just the same as an Autel layout. There's a lot of newer cars in here that weren't on my last few updates with Autel. Some older stuff, I don't know how it would talk with some of this older stuff without the diagnostic ports it had. Maybe there's an adapter they sell, but pretty wild that it has the capacity for all of these vehicles, which shocked me. So I'm going into diagnostics and I'm doing a quick scan real quick. What I'm trying to find is the instrument cluster, so that way we can go in and see if we can easily reset this. All right, so as you can see, we've got the different cars to select here, and I'm gonna go into GG4 Lusso T, oil reset right there. And that's the big one for me, that this can do the oil reset on these newer cars. I know it works because I've already done it, and I was surprised that it could even do it. The other car that I was surprised it could do was the 488. I've had a lot of new 488s that I gotta bring out the big, clunky laptops and various things in their cases and hook up the charger and all this. And this I could do. I'm already in here. You saw how quickly that got to that. And I can reset this and get the oil change on its way. So this, to me, even without me knowing its full capacity and knowing what Autel can do, and so far just playing around with what I've seen it be able to do in the sense of comparing it to Autel, it's already worth whatever they're charging for it, which again, I think is somewhere around $400. I cannot see you beating something like this for that price. Now, what about a more normal car, something that's not exotic? I've got a Honda Turbo, one of the newer ones, 2018, I believe, Earth Dreams motor. Now, this car was unique because it had been modified in its past, but the owner ended up buying it from the person who'd modified it. And he was an older gentleman and wasn't really into the mods, just wanted a, something fun to drive, but not a big car modder. So we actually ended up detuning it more for street driving and just general, daily driver sort of ownership. Now, one of the problems was the tune that he had on there we had to bring back, and of course this car had other issues that go along with this engine, cylinder head stuff. He's been bringing it to us for a number of years, but right now we've got the car here, and for a while he's had a turbo that wasn't working the way it should be working. For a number of years, he was trying to let it go as long because he really didn't care about performance. He was just kind of going to and from, but we ended up replacing it But now since he replaced it, he wants to make sure we get past emissions. I'm getting this permanent fault, P420. Now, what that could mean is I could have a problem with the catalyst, but the problem being is even when I go in and try to erase it, it says diagnostic information has been cleared, and when we go to check it, it's still there, permanent. Catalyst efficiency faults are never permanent. They should be able to be cleared. They don't come back right away. It usually needs to complete that drive cycle readiness monitor for it to even know it's faulty. So I know that this thing isn't quite clearing it out the way that this car needs to be cleared out, because this fault should be gone. We should have no faults before we start a drive cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in one of our higher tools, and the reason I'm doing that is to show you the similarities of one of our bigger tools that we paid some pretty big bucks for a number of years ago in comparison to this OTOFIX. Now since then, they've done a number of updates, newer tools, but they all basically do the same functions, just a little bit faster, maybe a little bit more back-end options. But that's what's I'm finding out is pretty amazing about this OTOFIX, is that it basically does all that for a fraction of the price. Everything that I've seen this tool do, I haven't ran into anything that the OTOFIX can't do. If you're gonna have something like this and you're paying big money for it, and then along comes a tool that does a lot of what it does for a lot less, it's kind of hard not to take that into account. I will say that I was just recently at SEMA with Alex, and I ended up talking to Autel, and I asked them about their closeness with the manufacturer of this new tool, because they're essentially both Autel. What I was told was Autel is the parent company in China, and Autel USA is a different branch, and they're not necessarily in support of this OTOFIX scan tool. I didn't get what that meant, but it kind of sounded like they were a little bit threatened by it up and coming, and you know, being it released for the price it's released for, and I could see why. All right, so as you can see here, it pulls up the year 2019 Civic, confirm forward, and we're going to go into diagnostics to try to see what options we have to be able to clear the fault memory, or see if there's any codes that the generic tool isn't picking up. And if you see the screen 4 features there, we got auto scanner control unit. Because I know the control unit I want to go into, I'm going to go straight to control unit. If I didn't want to see all the faults in the car, I'd go to auto scan, engine. And you can see that menu with all those modules on there. Those are all various modules for it to try to communicate with. And here's the functions here: read codes, erase codes, the live data if you want to watch what's going on while it's going on. Readiness monitors, I was just talking about the necessary to look at those. The various adjustments, you can see of all these little features in here, and you'll notice between the other scan tool how it looks, but I'm gonna go in and read codes. It says no fault codes detected, even though that one showed that there was one still present. And knowing how to balance all this information is kind of the job of being a tech. Here we go, our readiness, not complete, catalyst, evap, O2 sensor, and EGR. On that tool, it said we only had 3 left. This says 4. So just again to show you what this thing, adjustments, we'll click that too, just to compare the two tools on a car that everyone might own. Crank learn pattern, special function, VIN check, PCM reset. So I've been mostly positive here, but let's be real. Sponsored or not, you know we don't sugarcoat anything. If it was garbage, I'd say so, probably loudly with metaphors. But luckily for OTOFIX and you, it's actually pretty solid. But it's not perfect, and neither is anything. But it's sleek, it's techy, but it's one misstep away from being a tablet my kid would drop in 5 seconds flat, except that it's smaller than my kid's tablet, and if it lands, it doesn't look as tough. It's got a rubberized texture on the case, which is a nice touch because they know mechanics like us have our hands always covered in something questionable. But at least it looks like it could survive being thrown in the backseat of your car when the diagnostics don't go your way. But you probably shouldn't drop it on anything harder. Now let's talk battery life. It doesn't last quite as long as your patience when you're fixing a 15-year-old BMW, and that's pretty annoying, but it's probably my biggest gripe. It's always dead unless I've remembered to plug it in, which isn't very often. And this Bluetooth dongle, it's the brain of the operation, but it's also the easiest thing to misplace. And if you lose this tiny guy, you're one flip out away from turning your garage upside down in a panic. And honestly, for 400 bucks, they could have thrown in like a built-in holder or something to ping it like an AirTag when it's lost. I'm just saying. The wireless connectivity, it's decent, but it's not winning any awards. So let's be honest, we all blame Wi-Fi for being slow on everything, and that's just a bad habit, so I can't really knock it for that. As a DIYer, this is extremely powerful. In fact, this would be great for somebody who hobbyist auction buying, even light auction buying at maybe a little bit above. Great tool for people, car dealers, things like that with the capacity. I would definitely say that for the price, this would be dumb not to add to your repertoire. Even if you don't have Ferraris, I know the capacity on a lot of the domestic cars and the Japanese cars with Autel is probably unmatched. And if this has a quarter of the capacity that those tools have, which I think it's probably closer to 70 or 80%, to be honest, just kind of playing around with these, it's worth its weight in whatever they're asking for it. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on something that I thought would be phenomenal. I wish something like this existed 5-6 years ago, but it doesn't. And I've already invested in all these other tools, but I'll tell you what, I might not have been so quick to jump into some of those other tools had I known that you can grab something this powerful for that price. So is the OTOFIX D1 Lite worth it? Well, if you're a DIYer or a mechanic looking to add another weapon to your arsenal, then yeah, it's a solid pick. Or if you just like fixing things and saving a buck, well, if not, you probably clicked on the wrong video, but here's the kicker. It'll tell you everything that's wrong with your car, and you'll either feel empowered or overwhelmed. For under $500, you're getting a tool that does everything but pour your coffee. And you can compare that to tools 3 times the price that only handle diagnostics, and it really makes you wonder if we've been conned by the whole pro-grade branding game. Now, if you're interested in picking one of these up, we've got you covered. Check out the link in the description and use our discount code FLUID888 at checkout to save 10%.